What's up, people? It's your boy Jatois, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Nate Simpson and Chris Adderley and ask them several questions about Kerbal Space Program 2. Here are my questions, and here are their answers.
How much of the vision has changed since the initial concepts of KSP2 when you realized what the technology that constraints were?
A surprisingly small amount has changed. In fact, it's actually hard for me to call out a single major item that has changed. Partly because we designed the architecture to accommodate those initial spec requirements. That is why it has been so challenging to get everything up and running, because it's been a big task. But yeah, I think it pretty much lines up exactly with what we've been trying to build.
Cool.
This is fantastic because it lets us know that the vision for the game has always been within the constraints of technology that we currently have. Now, it may be requirements that not all of us have to be able to play the game at the top of the tier for what they were designing for, but at least that was something that they kept in mind, and we certainly will see performance improvements as we go forward.
So this question has come up a lot of times on our Discord, but I just want to kind of put it out there so we actually have the answer on camera here.
Uh-oh.
How solid of a feature is multiplayer now that it's on the roadmap? I know it's been said before for KSP1 and it was kind of pushed off, but how solid are we for multiplayer for KSP2?
I mean, we've played multiplayer. It already exists within our internal code base. So I feel very confident saying multiplayer will be happening.
It's fun. I can say.
We have a couple of dedicated multiplayer engineers whose entire function on the team is to make sure that whenever we check in a new feature, it is also multiplayer portable. They're constantly, anytime anything gets checked in without an awareness of its multiplayer implications, we get a swarm of messages on Slack saying, "You're forgetting that this also has to be a multiplayer game." And so, yeah, we're being very fastidious about making sure that we don't break it by accident by adding anything new.
Excellent.
So you heard it here. Multiplayer is a locked-in feature, and it is basically a guarantee as they are actively testing it and ensuring that new features that are coming in are included in multiplayer. So I am thrilled to see how far this will go and how much it will include for all of us to come together as a gaming community.
So since there's going to be modding included, what modding tools are being thought out to kind of improve the process from getting mods from point A to point B into the game?
I think that the first thing that we're going to be looking towards here is part modding, and that's been a really big selling point in terms of KSP1. I mean, I used to be a part modder, as you may or may not know. So I have quite a vested interest in ensuring that we can build and deliver the appropriate tooling that the community can use to create that kind of content. And I think we'll be rolling out our kind of like our vision as early access comes along in terms of allowing people to create exciting part content and then kind of seeing what next steps we can appropriately take to unlock the rest of the game. We've talked about like this feature iteration cycle that we have, right? It's like start with, we get the basics in, then we get that feature performant, and then kind of at the end of that process comes making that feature moddable. Once we've hit all our internal targets, we can do that. And I want to see us kind of move through that cycle with a lot of features throughout early access.
So as a content creator and also a modder, I just wanted to ensure that some of the tools that we saw from KSP1 would either make its way to KSP2 or be improved for KSP2, which would be even more exciting. So yeah, these are things that are very important to my own heart, and I hope to be able to bring some of my own mods over from KSP1 to KSP2.
Looking at some of the other technology and some of the mods from KSP1, there are some mods out there like ground effect that kind of creates that feature. And So looking at that, there's like a DARPA project called Liberty Lifter, and they're actually trying to bring back the chronoplans. Sounds insane, but things like that are happening now. So what type are we going to see features like that, like ground effect, weather? I know we're not going to get in body, but what type of features like that could we look forward to, or are those even feasible?
I've got opinions. I'll
You
go
go first. And I'll add on.
So everything that we do with an understanding of how things worked out for KSP1, right? That the KSP1 had quite a long development road, and a lot of really interesting upgrades continue to come into the game over an entire decade. So part of the reason we're doing early access is so that we can begin to get a window into what the community values the most. That it's going to turn into a cooperative endeavor, right? We're going to be hearing how people are vibing with the decisions that we've made, and then we'll probably be making adjustments based on what we're hearing. So now everything lives within a priority list. And so you tell me ground effect is a high priority. You're one person. It's actually two people. I mean, I would also love to see that, right? Everyone loves an Acranoplan, right? We're all into that, especially now that we have a boat dock at KSC. I want to be able to fly Acranoplans out of my boat dock. Sort of to go back to what Chris said about how we bring in features, right? You get it in, you get it stable, you get it performant, and you get it moddable, right? That's how we do everything. So right now we have an arrow system, right? And the arrow system is in, and it's stable, right? It performs in a predictable way. You all played it. It's fun. It works. And it works well with procedural wings, which I think is critical. Once it's in, we'll continue to expand and refine it, right? Then we are faced with the question of, do we expand the rule set here in some way that does respect ground effect, if that's a priority? If it turns out to be a priority, that's absolutely a conversation we can have. I can't remember, what was the other thing that you mentioned sort of as part of that? There was a completely different feature that you mentioned.
Weather.
Weather. Right. So and that's interesting. When we brought in clouds, immediately people start thinking, well, should there be weather? And again, I'm right there with you. Would love to see weather. Just depends on where it lives in the priority list. So we'll see what people want.
Yeah, and I think I can add to that is that whenever we evaluate a new feature for the game, something we want, we look at it versus our design pillars. And I think like Shane has got an excellent blog entry which talks about like, you know, the core pillars of KSP, and stuff that we do has to conform well to those pillars. So if we have, I mean, one of those is designing and flying cool rockets, and ground effect planes are really cool rockets. so I'll put that in there. And I can think of a dozen things about weather that would make flight interesting. I'll say interesting, but also a lot of ways that we can think about that. Well, there's some cool ideas floating around about colonies. We'll say there. So we do have to look at these features and make sure that they make sense to keep delivering like the kind of Kerbal gameplay that we've laid out for the sequel. But I am excited because a lot of people share cool aerospace articles with me on Slack practically every day, and there's a ton of activity in the aerospace sector about cool technology, new research and things, and I'd love to see all of that in the game.
We're in the strange position of being both fans and creators of the game, and so I want to answer your question in two ways anytime you ask it, right? As a fan, I want all the stuff, but I also I see the production pipeline daily, and I'm aware that there are certain physical and time constraints on the order in which we can execute against our desires. But our desires are very closely aligned with yours.
So this here is a harder question. We have had in the past some mods in KSP1 that brought in things like ground effect. We've had mods that bring in weather, but we've never had things like this stock in the game. So it's very exciting to see more things in the game like clouds. But at the same time, if we see clouds, I would really hope to see some weather systems. And I would love to see things like ground effect in the game as well. So this kind of shows that, while these are things that, yes, they would love to have in the game, that the build process, the development process, doesn't always have time to include these things, even though they're important to some of us. But I hope that as things dwindle down, maybe these are things that we'll see later on in time if they're important to enough people.
No, that was the last.
Okay,
That was the last question?
All
Okay.
right, cool. All right.
Did
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It's been great chatting. Thanks for coming.
And with that came the end of our interview. This provided a quick glimpse into the minds of Nate Simpson and Chris Adderley and offered to us some guarantees here for multiplayer, which excites me to an extreme level since I absolutely desired it for Kerbal Space Program 1, and we were able to get it in forms of mods with Dark multiplayer, Luna multiplayer, Kerbal multiplayer, and so on. But this means that we will have a vanilla version of multiplayer, and this will offer so much to the gameplay with multiple organizations able to go and journey forth together into the stars. Hopefully you have enjoyed this tidbit of information, and I hope to catch you guys in the next video. For now, it's your boy Jatois, and I am out. Peace.